everybody, and welcome back to Need More Info, a podcast exploring the worlds of movies, video games, and TV shows by the power of Grayskull. Oh wait, wrong franchise. People, we are going to be talking about Thor today. Thor: Love and Thunder. We're doing a little bit something different on the podcast today. Usually we go into the usual news topics, then we have our topic afterwards, but this is an extra special, lovely episode for you people out there. And joining me on this trip to the Bifrost today is returning Chaz, Fergus and James. How you guys doing today?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Just enjoying the lovely weather and the imminent heat wave where we're going to all melt.
I am glad that you didn't melt on your walk earlier, I must say.
We nearly did.
I mean, there's rumors that it's going to be 43 degrees on Friday, Saturday, and yeah, no,
Yeah,
hell no.
I've been hiding inside playing Civ and being slightly hungover because it's too hot to be outside with a hangover.
I mean, I went out today and I did almost 9,000 steps today alone. So yeah, I went into town and the heat was like, oh god damn no.
You are doing better than me.
Well, to be fair, you guys were walking like in the fields on a long walk.
About 7.5 miles.
Yeah.
How do you feel afterwards?
Good. Want to do more?
Had a nap. Yeah, it was good. Very hot, very sweaty.
It's a good
Yeah.
walk, that one. I would have liked to have gone, but as I said, I'm suffering today.
Yeah, no, I'm aching myself. I woke up and I was like, nah, I can't do it. But yes, people, obviously, we released our lovely episode on Friday where we talked about our top 5 superhero movies. Some interesting choices there. We had stuff like Mystery Men and Dread and V for Vendetta. And obviously Batman was The Dark Knight was definitely coming in there. We knew that was coming up quite a bit, to be honest. But definitely go back and listen to it, and maybe send us your opinions. We'll give you our details at the end. But yes, obviously with the new Marvel movie Thor: Love and Thunder coming out, it's out now. We all went to go see it on Friday, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a lovely review for the movie and a spoiler discussion. When we're going into the spoiler discussion, we will have a mini ad break, the usual ad break we have on our podcast. And then after the ad break, we will be going into the spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen the movie, go see it and then come back. We'll also do the content details at the end of the first half as well, just in case you do want to come back and email us later. That'd be really awesome to do. But yes, so obviously, Marvel has definitely been on it. There's been so much Marvel content this year. So much Marvel content. We've had Spider-Man No Way Home. We've had Moon Knight. We've had Miss Marvel. We've had... God, what else we had? Gotta bring the wiki up now, people, because that's the problem. What if this year? Was it last year?
No, that was last year.
Oh, my bad. I watched it this year.
Yeah, so obviously, we've had so much Marvel content coming out.
What if we're prepared enough to know exactly what Marvel movies were out this year?
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be an interesting conversation. I know they did delay a lot of movies, to be honest. So it's very interesting to say. Obviously, okay. So I've got the wiki page up now. So if we have the cinematic universe and the TV shows coming up now, so we have. Oh yeah. So WandaVision was last year. Falcon and Soldier was last year. So it was Moon Knight. Oh yeah. So it's Moon Knight, Miss Marvel so far for this year. In regards to the movies. In regards to the show, sorry, and for the movies, oh yeah, Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, and Spider-Man was Christmas last year. So we actually, to be fair, we've only had 2 movies and 2 shows, but I say only, but they do take up a lot of time. But to be fair, Fergus has only seen 1 of them.
Yeah, I didn't go see Multiverse of Madness because I was assured that I wouldn't understand the movie at all unless I'd seen WandaVision, which I have not, so I didn't bother.
I think it's not that you wouldn't understand it, but it does provide good context, in my opinion. So it's it stands enough on its own. But yeah, there's a few bits that might be a little bit like, where did this come from? But in the past, I've seen Marvel movies without seeing some of the previous stuff, and I think that generally they work okay by themselves for the most part.
Especially today, which we will get into in a minute. So obviously, with I will say with WandaVision though, I highly recommend it just for the creativity alone is just astounding. And to be fair, WandaVision does directly go into Doctor Strange. So it does literally go straight into it. So they are literally connected and you have to watch them. I'll say literally one more time because I've said it multiple times already. And obviously we're getting Black Panther Wakanda Forever near Christmas. And we're getting She-Hulk and a Halloween movie coming out. It's called Werewolf by Night. being directed by Michael Giacchino. So that's going to be quite interesting. And this is why I honestly think The Midnight Suns is going to come in, because obviously we're getting Blade later on. So yeah, that will be interesting indeed. And obviously, just to make you aware, people, with Comic-Con happening in a couple of weeks' time, we will be doing a Comic-Con centric episode. So we won't be doing any news that week, because obviously the news will be all of the Comic-Con stuff coming up. And no doubt we're going to find out what the actual plans for Marvel going forward. But we'll get into that in the spoiler discussion, because I think I have some opinions on where and what could possibly happen later down the line. So, people, I think it's time to call Heimdall. Oh wait, no, he's dead. And maybe speak to Thor, bring the Bifrost, and get into the review for this movie. So, let's start with you, Chaz. How were your initial impressions on the movie?
I had fun with it. I wouldn't say it blew me away or anything. I don't think it's going to stick with me as much as Ragnarok did. The same kind of humor and tone was there as Ragnarok, but perhaps a little less effective. I did really enjoy the villain, though, and some of the visual effects that came along with that character. So yeah, generally it was okay, relatively funny, but a little bit of a step down for Ragnarok, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. We'll get into Gore, the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, in a little bit. But Fergus, how about yourself?
I found this a really good film. Like, even just the trailer was just really entertaining. The film itself, more of the same from the trailer, just unbelievably entertaining. It's very different from previous Marvel films. Like, it goes into very new territory. It's new style. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. More classic Thor, but now in a much wider context, and Thor's quite relatable in a lot of ways, I think. Yeah, I really, really good. I very much enjoyed it.
And James, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I thought Thor was it's basically a comedy, a straight comedy the whole way through. And it's a very, very entertaining comedy. But the main villain is really good, really interesting, underutilized, and I think deserved a non-comedy movie. He deserved a movie with time to really breathe as a character, which this film didn't do. But otherwise, it's very entertaining.
I think, yeah, going on that point in regards to, Christian Bale as the God Butcher, he has been, pretty much praised across the board by all reviewers. I will say, with this movie being under 2 hours, I think it has the same problems that Doctor Strange has, is that Endgame is 3 hours long. People sat through Endgame, the latest Stranger Things episode was 2.5 hours. I think this movie, like with Doctor Strange, it needed an extra 20-30 minutes on it. Like, to be fair though, Ragnarok isn't 2.5 hours, it's about 2 hours 10, I believe. So it's not that long, but it's a bit longer. I think I do agree on your point, James, in regards to, I wouldn't say maybe a completely serious movie, but even with Ragnarok, it did have its serious elements.
Yeah, so I think, just to clarify a little bit, I mean, what you do is, I say, have a more serious movie, you still have the humour, but like The Dark Knight, that humour is there to add levity rather than making the whole thing just comedy. It's fair to intersplice with the more serious moments.
I will say, let's start off with the main cast themselves. Let's run through the main cast. So obviously, this is Chris Hemsworth's 9th appearance as Thor now, and he is actually the first of the original Avengers to get his 4th movie. Obviously, Sam Wilson will be taking over the role for Captain America in the 4th Captain America movie. And this film, though, I think Chris Hemsworth has definitely found his groove now. I would say, though, actually going on James's point, I would have it reined back a bit in regards to his performance, because he's supposed to be a character who's supposed to be very wise now, but he does come off a very dude bros, very dude bro, childish still. And I think as a character evolves, he still has lingering childlike characteristics, which are good to have still, which are funny to have, because obviously, even Tony Stark had, mannerisms of what he's always had. But I think Thor, The Dark World, and Ragnarok, it showed his evolution, his maturity, and obviously when it came to Infinity War and Endgame, it showed a broken man. I will say, at the end of Endgame, we had the resolution of his character and where he was. I feel like we needed a bit more in regards to his, like, obviously without going into spoilers too much, I feel like we needed a bit more of that story at the beginning.
In regards to what you're saying about, that kind of personality shift, or not shift, but like the Dubro personality, like he feels a bit. Yeah, I agree with you. A bit like, I don't know. He feel like he should be a bit smarter and wiser. It feels like that's kind of leaning into the tone of the movie. That's why he's like that, if that makes sense. Because the movie is so much of a comedy, it feels like they've kind of changed his character and molded it a little bit to go in that direction, which maybe isn't the right thing to do. Personally, I'm thinking.
See, the weird thing is obviously because with Ragnarok, I felt like he did have a really good balance. Like he did have he did have his comedic elements, but he did have the serious tones when it came to Hela and like his sister and his dad and Loki and everything. I felt like there was a much balanced tone. Like don't get me wrong, we don't have to go to come hither, the proper Asgardian voice, because obviously, just to make everyone aware, Chaz hasn't seen Thor 1 and 2. So
in there.
I'm just, well, to be fair, it has to come into it because it's like the whole basically with the first two Thor movies, the first one is a very Shakespearean movie. The second one takes a more darker turn, which was actually considered the worst of the Thor movies. I watched it recently. It's not bad. It's not terrible. It's just, it's underwhelming compared to the other ones. And it had a heavily underutilized villain because Christopher Eccleston was the main villain in that. And that movie was darker in itself. And then they went the completely opposite direction with Taika Waititi, making a very 80s power metal raw aesthetic version, as everyone loves with Ragnarok. And I think it's a case of like with Chris Hemsworth's character, his evolution from bratty like character in Thor, like he was petulant, he wanted to just go to war. He didn't basically like take on the kingly characteristics, and he was just arrogant all the time. And that was actually put into the plot line, whereas the narrative went along, he became wiser, he became like, and obviously in Endgame he pulled away from being king, he gave it over to Valkyrie, and he went on this journey. And I feel that in this movie, like, I'll tell you now, people, like, this is not much spoilers, obviously if you've seen the trailers, the Guardians of the Galaxy are in the movie for 7 to 9 minutes. They are pretty much in the movie for 7 to 9 minutes and they disappear.
I felt that was a bit misleading of the trailer, actually, because I kind of expected, to be honest, a full movie of Thor hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy, which sounded really cool.
I do think it kind of sets the tone for where the movie is, though. Like, this is effectively Thor in space for like 80% of the time. He's at New Asgard occasionally, but he's rather detached from Earth now.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, because obviously Thor has a big attachment to Earth, and I think going off on these adventures are great, because obviously in the comic books, Thor does interact with the Guardian. He actually has adventures with the Asgard. They actually have a comic series called the Asgardians of the Galaxy. Like that's actually a thing in the comic books. So this is why I think people felt that. But I do think like he went from this broken man to this like dude bro mass. He's huge in this film, like muscular wise, and that was skipped over very quickly. And it starts off with a very peaceful intro, and then it just goes straight into the movie, and it doesn't stop.
I'm going to say, maybe Guardians of the Galaxy 4 will be as Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, to be fair, that could be a case, because obviously this is going to be the final iteration of this Guardians group, has been said. But obviously, but yeah, let's move. So Chris Hemsworth, I will say, he does give a great performance. And when it does get to the emotional parts of the film, because there are actually some good emotional parts of the movie, we'll get to that in the spoiler discussion, he does bring it quite well. And I will say Chris Hemsworth has really evolved great as an actor, and he is really good in the role. I just kind of wish we saw more of that side of him in this movie instead of just the jokey side. And I think we'll definitely get more into that in spoiler discussion. Going on to the next cast member, though, who's returned to the movie after many years, is Natalie Portman in the role of Dr. Jane Foster, or as she's now known as the Mighty Thor. How did we feel about Natalie?
Yeah, she was really good in the original iterations of the Thor films. It's a shame it's taken her quite so long to come back. Added quite a lot of the drama to the film, certainly. Which makes a good Mighty Thor. Yeah, having two Thors at the same time is an interesting one, really.
Yeah, I thought she was good in the role. I've not seen the first two Thor films, so it's the first time I've seen her in a Marvel movie. I thought she was pretty decent. I don't want to go into more details about what I think until it's for discussion.
Yeah, I was a bit hesitant to say something as well because of that, but yeah, generally, she gives a good performance. I think the character's pretty enjoyable, and having the second Thor was cool as well. I like the effect with the split up hammer. That was pretty awesome. So yeah, generally, an enjoyable character to watch, I think.
So yeah, I think because they do make a joke in the movie how Thor hasn't seen Jane for like 8 years, 4 months, and 6 days. If that's the time, I'd be so glad if I remember. But the last movie did come out November 8th, 2013, with Thor: The Dark World, with her last on-screen appearance. She does have a vocal appearance in Endgame. I want to say she does have like a voice appearance there, but. Yeah, I really enjoyed her in the movie. I felt like she had a lot more fun with this film because she needed to be saved in the previous films, or she was the scientist that was like the sideline having stuff explained to. It wasn't. I feel this movie was very centric upon her as well. I feel like you could definitely tell she was front and center of this movie, which was great.
I think as well she had quite a lot to work with in terms of what she had going on with her character. Obviously, she was newly empowered. That was cool. She'd seen Thor for the first time in 8 years or whatever it was. And she's going into space and like doing all these, fighting bad guys for the first time, and then some other stuff going on as well. So yeah, there's a lot to work with, and it definitely made quite a complex character to watch on screen.
Coming up with all those catchphrases.
Oh, boy.
I kind of wish we figured out. We found out how fun. Just to make you aware, there's a running joke during the film that she's coming up with these catchphrases because she's a superhero now, and that's what she feels she needs. But yeah, no, I thought she gave a great performance. She bulked up a lot for the role. Like she was, you could see her physically going toe to toe with some of these characters. And I know the only thing they had to do for the film was increase her height. That was the only hit, because obviously in the movie her height changes when she turns into the mighty Thor. So that was very interesting. Going off, obviously, coming back to the main villain in the movie, though, Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher.
Yeah, he was. I love again. I mean, Christian Bale's really good. You always get good performance out of Christian Bale, no matter what he does. He's one of those chameleon actors who can fit into a lot of different roles, and I really enjoyed him as Gore. I just wish we had more time to really flesh out his character arc.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. As I mentioned before, some of the effects that came with him, there's a lot of sequences where they drain the color from the film because of the powers of the sword that he's using. That was a very nice touch. That's probably one of the best visual aspects of the movie, actually. And like you said, yeah, he fit in really well despite the slightly strange tone of the movie. I think that he actually did have some small humorous moments, but it didn't go too over the top. Generally, yeah, was quite menacing. It's it's just a shame that it was kind of a one movie and done character, because it would have been nice to see more.
He was good. I don't know if it's the main villain, but there was an awful lot else going on in the film that kind of distracted from what he was up to, I think. I mean, it was the main driving force, but also, he was, as a character, good. I think you're right in saying that there wasn't really much character development. He found a sword, then he was evil. The end. Really?
Well, I think there's more to it than that. I think there was a very good character there, but just wasn't enough to show the in between various moments.
Yeah, underutilized, I think.
I don't want to go into more detail again. So
Yeah.
it's more discussion.
Yeah, it's probably best not to. So going on to other characters, maybe I would definitely cast as main characters. Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie.
Yeah.
I thought she was brilliant in the movie. I love the fact that she is the king of Asgard, a tourist attraction now, which I think's hilarious.
Yeah.
Sorry, James. I was just going to say the boat with the theme park seats on it. I don't know, that gave me a chuckle.
Yeah, it feeds a lot into the whole Disney owns Marvel thing now, because Disney theme park rides, of course, there's going to be a theme park ride around that boat, and that's probably advertising Orlando Disney does New Asgard, sort of. Yeah, it's not ashamed to be owned by Disney now. It's a thing.
Funny enough, I was going to say exactly the same thing as you, Chaz.
Yeah, I think with her performance, like she is a board king. She is essentially a board king now, and it's a case of she wants to get back into the battle, essentially. And yeah, I think her character could be explained more when we get into the spoiler discussion, because there's some spoiler discussion points with her. The character I loved in this film. I think we all know where this is going now. I loved Russell Crowe as Zeus. I thought he was hilarious in this role.
Yeah, he was good.
I was very
Unexpected, definitely.
yes. I was very.
It's very show-offy.
Yeah. It'll have implications further down the line for further films.
Big arrogant entertainer.
Yeah.
Well, I do like the fact that he kind of is like how he is in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just wondering how. And as James has said, it will have ramifications narrative-wise as we go further down in the Marvel universe. Sorry.
Not me.
I'm sorry, Fergus. I'm gonna, I will retract that and put it back to Fergus. I'm sorry, Fergus. All of you are talking. No, I thought he was hilarious in the movie. The accent, I'm wondering how the Greek and Italian communities will find that accent, because he does. I did like that though, the fact that like in the first Thor movie, Thor and all the Asgardians put on a very Shakespearean accent, like a big bravado accent. Whereas as time's gone by, they've just had to talk normally. Whereas with this movie, it's a case of like Zeus does have a Greek Italian accent in the movie, and I'm wondering if maybe close to Italian, because obviously they could just do the whole Jupiter angle as well, because he could be the same character. But yeah, no, I thought he was hilarious in the film. Just to make you aware, people, if you have seen the trailer, Thor has a blurred out ass in the trailer. You do get both cheeks in the movie. That is prime on display.
I think Chris Hemsworth paid like extra attention and made sure to do a lot of leg days if he knew that was coming up.
Oh, no doubt, indeed, and in the slightest.
Never skipped leg day.
No, not well. He is massively toned in this film, like ridiculously buff. But yeah, no, just narrative-wise for the film, though, I feel it's a case of this film just didn't stop, and I think we'll get into more of the spoiler discussion. But I feel it needed a bit more breathing room. That was my concern. I feel because with Ragnarok, you had elements where certain characters were defeated and then they went off, and then you had a lot of different locations, but you had breathing room within these locations, and you could develop these characters in these locations more. With this movie, it felt like you had to jump between these places extremely quickly. We won't talk about the main narrative plot point which drives the movie until the spoiler discussion, but I think that's my main critique of the movie, in the sense of it was just jokes pretty much all the way through the film. And I think with these sorts of movies, it's amazing to have jokes, but I feel you need breathing room to let the jokes play, and you need to let them settle. Whereas this movie, don't get me wrong, we were all chuckling throughout this movie pretty much constantly. The jokes are great in this film, but I felt it just needed a bit of breathing room. And it's a case of like, also there is a narrative plot point in this movie. Like if you know certain characters' histories in the comic books, how it plays out with certain characters, we won't spoil it. It does play into this film, and I feel that was underutilized. It felt like a plot point they had to put in because of this character, but it just felt shoved to the side at points, or it was just, oh, this is still here, and then at the end they only just bring it back. And I feel that was probably the time where we could have spent a bit more time, like with these characters, and like in these down periods, like just talking and like understanding life essentially, and how it's a case of, because obviously Jane and Thor have been broken up for years. And to be fair, they have great chemistry in the movie, like really great chemistry. You could tell these are two characters who love each other and everything. But I feel it needed a bit of breathing room to let that play out more.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I will say, obviously, Taika Waititi is back as Korg, and I thought he was hilarious in the film. He's obviously going to be hilarious in the movie. I found out the budget for this movie was $250 million, and they actually did use the volume for a lot of this movie. The volume technology. I think that's so. I will say there were some shots in this film where visually it was stunning, but you could definitely tell there was some CG. The CG looked a bit off at points, at certain points. Which I was, don't get me wrong, loved the film, and I guess that's just the style it's going for. But I did notice that. But I guess if you watch on TV or something, you probably won't. Or I know with Marvel movies, they do improve the visual effects before they go to like a film release on Blu-ray and everything. So, because I know Black Panther had the same critique with certain visual effects, but were improved as it went along. So maybe that's just something they do. And obviously, this was filmed during COVID. So I think like another podcast I listened to were talking about how a lot of this Marvel stuff in Phase 4 was filmed during COVID and released during COVID. And a lot of people have the issues with the disconnection of where this phase is going. could it be the fact that COVID has caused a lot of problems with Phase 4? Because obviously with the previous phases, even from Iron Man 1, we knew where the narrative was going. But at the moment, we don't really know where everything is going.
Mm.
To be fair, I actually feel like this is the first movie where I've felt that a little bit. I feel like WandaVision flows pretty well into Doctor Strange. The Spider-Man movies flow pretty well into each other. I suppose they were started before COVID, but yeah, this is the first one where it's felt a little off. And from what I've been reading online, that's the general consensus as well. Though, as you said, some people do feel like Phase 4 is a bit directionless.
Yeah, because obviously with Moon Knight, they have said you don't need to see any of Marvel to watch Moon Knight, which I think was actually a good decision, to be honest. Like, you don't have to have seen anything from Marvel. You could just go into that and just completely disconnected. And I thought that really worked well for it. I think like Eternals had a big issue as well, where you had so many characters over so long. That should have been a Disney Plus show, because I feel that they needed a lot more breathing room for those characters. And I'm currently watching Miss Marvel, and that finishes next week. And I think Disney Plus has this thing of they're either finished too late or too quickly, and they need to find that right middle ground for shows. Like WandaVision, I felt was 9 episodes. Did it need to be 9 episodes? I felt it was probably just about right. Maybe 8 would have worked. But with like stuff like Moon Knight, it was 6 episodes. Miss Marvel's 6 episodes. So I'm just wondering how that played. Maybe as things though. It's a tweaking act, and all these shows are brilliant. All these actors are great, and everything. All the narratives are great. It's just the fine tweaking that they need to do, I think. And I think with Thor, I do feel, because obviously we're getting Comic-Con in a couple of weeks. They have said that there is a plan there, and it has already been in the films already. Like Kevin Feige has stated that the actual what's going to happen is in the movies. It's already been shown, but no one's really noticed it yet. But I think if you're going to say that, it needs to be present a bit more, because even with like Avengers 1, it literally ended with Thanos appearing at the end of the movie, and you knew where that was going. At the end of Iron Man, the Avengers Initiative, and obviously Captain America was called the First Avenger. You knew where that first phase was going, and then obviously Ultron was underutilized quite a bit, to be honest, because he's a major villain. But I think Fantastic Four and the movies we cut, so Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 are going to be our movies which tie all together, I think, because obviously they're the end of this phase. And I think that's probably the best way to go, because I don't think we're getting an Avengers film in this phase. It's more standalone movies and the Disney Plus shows. And obviously we're getting She-Hulk, and we're also getting a lot of different TV shows. And obviously we're getting Deadpool, which I don't know how the fuck's that's going to play into all this. But yeah, I think with Phase 4... I'm hoping maybe with the next bunch of films and TV shows coming out, this is where all the connection starts coming in.
I don't think so. Now that Marvel is owned by Disney, I think this is pretty significant. We'll get it further into the spoiler discussions, because it means revealing stuff that is spoilery. But do you reckon Phase Thor might be more have more crossovers with actual Disney properties?
I think it could be the case, and also a Phase Thor. I just had to put it in there, because a great pun there. No, I think it's a case of with this phase. The thing is that you can't expect after 10 years to people are expecting a lot now from Marvel. Like after Endgame, people are expecting the next Endgame pretty much straight away. I feel that these movies need a bit of breathing room to build themselves back up. Also, we are going with entirely new characters. We are expanding to the universe into a literal multiverse of madness. We are going into areas that we never expected to happen. And I think it's just a case of when we look back on this, there will be some films where it's like, okay, these were very singular and maybe weren't as connected. And then we're going to figure out, oh no, this was actually connected to this all along and everything. And I think they could pull it off. Like Disney, Kevin Feige, Disney, Marvel are brilliant for this. And I'm really looking forward to see what they do. And I believe they are going to reveal where it's going in a couple of weeks' time. I believe that is the plan at Comic-Con. And we'll definitely be having a discussion on that. I know some people have said, though, that a lot of people have been like really enjoying DC quite a bit lately more, because they're doing a lot more original, out there stuff, which we'll probably get into more conversation on that later on, because obviously Joker and the Batman. I know Fergus, we won't go into that. But I think with this movie, we'll get into that. I think we'll do a wrap up for this for the ratings. I think with this movie, I really enjoyed the performances of the characters. I feel that some narrative elements were, as I said, underutilized. I feel that also they paid a band a lot of money to use their music in this movie. There's like 4 tracks in this film. I keep saying Thor, not I keep saying that in this movie quite heavily. And I guess Taika Waititi likes Guns N' Roses because another narrative plot point has Guns N' Roses references. I'm gonna give this movie. So I really wanted to give this movie an 8 out of 10, but I think I'm gonna have to give it a 7.5. I think I'm gonna have to give it. I feel it's not a 7 because I did give Uncharted a 7. And I did enjoy this quite a bit more than Uncharted, but I think it's a case of I'm having to balance the narrative plot points that I was kind of disappointed with, and I feel that the performances were brilliant. As James has said, though, the underutilization of certain characters did drop it down a bit for me, especially for actors of that level. And I feel, hopefully, later down the line, we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we'll see this plan that Marvel are doing, which we'll get into the spoiler discussion. But yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Yeah, we've got to go into scores, but I'm going to give it. If we're going to go into scores, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I found it thoroughly entertaining, but it was a little bit vapid. It was a bit empty. If it was going to be food, it would be some delicious dessert, which was just full of empty calories.
That's a very good analogy. I would say for me, I would give it a 7. It felt like another Thor Ragnarok, but just doing everything slightly less well. And I think that
Or Diet Rock.
yeah, basically. It felt for me that it leaned a little too heavily into the, lol, funny, random kind of stuff. And the tone, because of that, was a bit off in places. And as I said before, some characters were underutilized. But, generally a good chuckle. Some parts of it worked really well. 7 for me.
Okay. So I'm going in at 9 out of 10.
Wow.
Shockingly.
Okay.
It's really good. So it's quite different to the previous Thor films. I think this is potentially the new direction for Marvel, now owned by Disney. I don't think that's insignificant in this film. It is extremely fun. The adventures that they get up to, again, are interesting, very different to the previous decade of Marvel films. Accessible, quite very relatable, I think, in places. The drama's okay. Probably where it loses its not 10. It does very well with the characters it has. You've also got to bear in mind that the Marvel universe is extremely complicated right now with everything that's going on and all of the different characters that are going here, there, and everywhere. And I think it deals with it pretty well, considering. And, I watched this space with this film because I think this might be the new era Iron Man, potentially.
I wanted to say, we all have quite a lot of varied opinions on this one, and I think that generally reflects what we're seeing online as well. Some people are saying that it's okay. Some people say they really, really enjoyed it. Some people are really bashing this film. I really don't think you need to be that harsh about it. It's not that bad, but it's definitely a bit less straightforward than some of the previous Marvel movies in terms of reception.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. And I'm just trying to work out the average now, because the average would be 7.75 out of 10. I think it's gonna have to be an 8. I think we're gonna have to balance out at an 8, because obviously Fergus gave it a 9, James gave it an 8. You did give it an 8, right, James? And Chaz, you gave it a 7.
7.
So so I gave 7.5. So I think we're gonna have to round out. So from the NMI crew, this is an 8 out of 10 movie. This is for wide opinions as well. We're definitely dropping that Thor in there quite a bit. Yes, everyone, right, people, that is our review section. That is our review for the movie. Make sure to stick around for our spoiler discussion for the film. We'll probably be doing that for about 15-20 minutes. if you want to, if you have not seen the movie yet, make sure to go away, watch the movie, then come back and listen to the discussion. And if you've got any questions, queries, or compliments, or any plot points, or how you were disappointed or you loved the movie, or anything that you felt we missed out, email those into us at nmipodcast@outlook.com. That's nmipodcast@outlook.com. As I said, this, as Chaz has said, this movie is very divisive in the critics community and the audience community. I think people expected Ragnarok too, and I think that was the problem going into this film. Like, you shouldn't expect the same thing again. It's like, as I've said before, everyone's expecting the next Endgame after Endgame. Everyone was expecting the next Ragnarok after Ragnarok, and I feel that was you can't. Sometimes lightning doesn't hit twice, and the thing is, though, lightning doesn't have to hit twice. You just have to enjoy it. And as Fergus has said, it was a 9 out of 10 for him, so he really enjoyed it. So yes, people, if you want to drop in your ratings, reviews, compliments, queries, any questions, any theories, nmipodcast@outlook.com. That's nmipodcast@outlook.com. Put in the subject line Thor, Love and Thunder opinions, of just Thor, Love and Thunder. We will read them out on the next podcast episode. If you're leaving us now, make sure to join us on Friday. We'll be recording on Tuesday when this podcast goes out. We'll be doing a episode on, I guess we gave a hint in the Fergus is just giggling right now so much. We are doing an episode on VTubers, and
Yes.
I'll tell you this now, me and James are going to be taking a back seat for this episode, and we are letting Fergus take the reins of this episode because we don't know what the fuck is going to happen.
Yeah, I want you to ask me questions because I want to know what you want to know about this. Like, I will do my best to be a beginner's guide introduction to the world of VTubing.
And yeah, I honestly thought if you said VTube, I thought maybe it was like a swimming pool thing with tubing and everything. I don't know, that was probably a thing to go with, but yeah, then I googled it and I was like, oh my god, what is this? So yeah, that is a very interesting thing. But yes, people, make sure to join us on Friday if you're going away now for that episode. It's going to be very interesting, and we will be doing also some interesting topics from Chaz in the future weeks ahead, and also we'll be doing the Comic-Con special in about 2-3 weeks time. So make sure to join that. And again, people, make sure to join us after the ad break for our spoiler discussion for Thor, Love and Thunder.
An illegal spy agency discovers the theft of a prototype weapon. Derek, codename Confused Llama, and his handler, Frank, codename Majestic Vole, investigate the theft. A naive man with fanciful notions, Derek sets out on his inept journey to reclaim the weapon from villainous hands, unaware of the hidden tale following him. Enter the world of Confused Llama, A Spy's Tale, a short comedic spy thriller available on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Thor Love and Thunder review. Oh wait, no, we are doing the spoiler discussion now, people. So pre-warning, everything going onwards now, we will be talking about the new Thor Love and Thunder movie. This movie, as said, will be heavy spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, just please leave now. I'm going to give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and now we are into the spoiler discussion. So again, like, we kind of slipped into the review, but this is a one and done for Chris Hemsworth it's not Chris Hemsworth, Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher in this movie. Obviously, I'm a bit disappointed with that because I feel I prefer comic book characters, villains who don't die at the end of their movies. Because obviously you can utilize them later.
So I've got might take a bit long to explain this. I don't mind that he was a one and done character. I mind how he was utilised in this. So how I would have loved to have seen this would have been films building up to this point. Not necessarily, it shouldn't have been like an end game level event, but it could have been like a Civil War, like a Thor Civil War kind of thing. So I'd have loved films between maybe like Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy, building up the god element and maybe having more gods as key characters. And then you bring in Gore from God Butcher. So you've got these established characters who then he is now taken out. And that's how I would have done it.
I think you're taking an interesting perspective on this. Like, so Gore the God Butcher, in the wider perspective of the Marvel Universe, is really only there to introduce the daughter character, I think. Because she will play a significant part in future films going forwards.
But
And
but the character's really interesting, Gore.
the
So
character
he
is
deserves,
really
he
interesting.
deserves much better treatment than just being there to introduce a new character.
He also introduces the concept of the gods, which is also going to be very significant going forwards in other films.
So I will say though, the one thing I'm a bit frustrated with, because with Gore the God Butcher, he has a massive connection to Venom, a massive connection to Venom. So the Necro sword is a sword from Null, the king of the symbiotes. Like
My
yeah,
God.
yeah. That's
okay.
that's a big. That's why the sword is so powerful, because there was this whole comic book event with Null coming to Earth and then like taking over a ton of heroes, like King of the Symbiotes. You know, that pretty much says it all. When he has a massive thing, and the Necrosword is massively played into that. And I will say, I believe that was Dionysus, the god he killed, and also that's the only god we see him kill in the movie on screen.
Yeah.
And I feel that was a big thing. Like we see the aftermath, and I feel James made a good point of like, maybe it's a case of we see the gods in the movies, but then there are hints that they're disappearing as the movies go on. And I think, yeah, that should have happened.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. Like we were all complaining that this character doesn't have enough screen time. Not necessarily have to have other movies building this up, but it would have been nicer to see the gods as well, and that could have been a good way to do it. You know, have him actually show him finding these
Yeah.
gods, killing them. You know, that's more character time, and also that could have been pretty cool to see as well. Like the fight with that giant god creature, the one they say is like the nicest god ever or something. Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah. So my argument for having more films with establishing the gods beforehand would be we're more attached to establishing characters as he is taking them out. That's the reason why.
And I also think that the way that they did introduce the gods in this movie, it felt a little anticlimactic. They just sort of show up at this hub. I can't remember what they described it as. But
Omnipotent city. Omnipotent city.
why don't I
Omnipotent
don't remember what
City?
it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just sort of show up and they're all just sat around. You know, they don't do anything. They're just there. It felt very anticlimactic. That.
It could have done with more exploration. Like, say, if there had been an extra 20 minutes, you could have had like scenes where Thor, they have to hide from someone and they have to end up in a room where they see gods doing god stuff. But
I will say the creatures that Gore controls were quite interesting, to be honest. Like the shadow creatures, I did love Valkyrie's take on. So he controls shadow creatures and he goes into the shadow realm. I was expecting it to go, that's a bit on the nose for a name, right? Like, but it was just like, you know, the most powerful. I really love that aspect. I do agree on the God City, like visually stunning, and it was really interesting because obviously I know a lot of people have said that Bast, the Black Panther god, is actually on screen in that. So that's very interesting because obviously Bast is mentioned in the Black Panther movie, so it was interesting to see that. I loved all the variety in the gods themselves. Even Korg's god was hilarious seeing him there, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that name because it was way out there. And yeah, going into like obviously Russell Crowe's character, I love that he was an arrogant asshole in this film, like so much. And when he pranced down the stairs, like I'm literally going to call it prancing because he was very light-footed. Coming, is prance a fair word to say?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, prancing downstairs and like he pulls up his skirt and everything as he's coming down the stairs and like and he's not a fit character. He's as Thor puts it, he's weak. Like he's become too relaxed in his his life.
I was glad to see, now that we're on to spoilers, the end scene where they revealed that he wasn't just killed, because I was actually really disappointed that they just kind of killed him off, and I'm just like, this is supposed to be Zeus, right?
I was actually a bit confused at that. I did think they killed him off at that point, and I was a bit confused because I thought the main plot point was only the Necrod sword could kill them.
I think it's a case of other gods can kill other gods. To be fair,
yeah. Was it only the sword can kill them, or it's just a powerful weapon that can kill them?
So are we going to get a sequel with Thor the God Butcher?
I mean, he doesn't have the lightning bolt anymore though, because it was broken at the end of the film.
I can always find a new weapon.
I mean, he has his hammer back, which we'll get into in a second. But going on the we'll get into the other main character, but Chaz actually hit on the point of the end credit scene of introducing the most powerful Olympian. Turns out Hercules is here, people. Bless my soul.
Yes, this is very interesting. I hear rumors that Disney is also working on a live-action Hercules adaptation at the same time. Is this going to be the same guy? Are the two worlds going to meet? Does this mean that Disney musical is going to meet Thor versus Hercules?
That would be interesting, having two versions of Hercules. Because I think it won't. I don't think it's a case of they'll be the same character. It will literally just be a Disney adaptation of the movie itself, or whatever they're doing for that. Because I know Guy Ritchie's doing that movie, but I've been reading up on this Hercules character, and he does go toe to toe with Thor. And also, interesting fact, his hammer is actually adamantium, so it actually links to Wolverine. So that's a very interesting take, to be honest. But it doesn't come back to, basically, it doesn't have that magical property in itself. But having him literally appear at the end to go after Thor, and obviously I think I'm hoping that's going to be a big plot point going forwards, which would be really interesting to see. Bringing it back though, and obviously, and it's Hercules is played by Brett Goldstein, who is currently in Ted Lasso, the American or British football comedy TV show, and I was very interested to see him in the role. And he was very buff. Like when I saw him, and I didn't realize he was that buff, to be honest. When I saw him in Ted Lasso, maybe he bulked up quite a bit during the filming phase. Going off of a case of like back to the movie itself, though, I'm a bit underwhelmed about Natalie Portman's narrative in the film. I feel that she was brilliant, like how she portrayed Thor and how she was loving being Thor, but also loving helping. She did have a slight, how can I put this? She felt invincible. She did feel like she was invincible in the movie, and I think that's a narrative driving point for the movie. And I think it's a case of like when it comes to the character, that does definitely drive into the movie itself. But she definitely had a case of she doesn't want to see anyone hurt, and I think that's the Doctor side of it, which plays into it as well. It's the dual identity of Jane Foster and Thor, which I think really works really well.
Yeah, so I have a bit of a controversial kind of like thought going into the film as to how, maybe it's because of how I would have written it, bearing in mind, okay, cool. So I thought, maybe it's not what I thought I would actually do, but maybe this is what I probably would have done. I thought they would have killed off Chris Hemsworth for with Gore the God Butcher, and then Jane Foster would take over.
That did seem a possibility for sure, but you can't get rid of Chris Hemsworth.
That's true. The other reason why I thought that might happen is because we've already lost Iron Man, we've already written out Captain America, so we're already losing kind of like very slowly and Black Widow. So we're already losing the original Avengers. So it just kind of like felt to me like that might happen, but it didn't. And that's all good because Chris Hemsworth is great, so I don't mind.
It's only if you go by Hawkeye, and if you do go by the end of the film, and if he doesn't come back, you only have Hulk and Thor now left. Like Black Widow's dead, Iron Man's dead. Hawkeye kind of actually retires at the end of Hawkeye, the TV series. It's really lovely, well put. If you actually watch the show, it's really well. And Haley Steinfeld's taking over. And I think Thor, though, I think you need to keep Thor around because I think he does still have a journey to go on in this series, and I feel he isn't at that point yet. And I think it's a case of with Chris Hemsworth, as you said, I don't think we could get rid of him just yet. And also, I know Chris Hemsworth has said he'll kill until he feels that there's nothing left to tell for his character. He will keep coming back for this role, and I think that plays out really well.
Yeah, and at the end of the movie, obviously they introduce his not daughter, I guess it's like, what do you call it, adopted daughter, and that that's a new dynamic for the character, right? So there's definitely more to do with Thor's character.
Funny thing about that is his daughter.
Yes,
it's the actor's daughter. So
that was a cool touch as well.
Daughter.
Yeah.
I did love the fact that the movie is titled Love and Thunder, and it has multiple. I do like that when they do this, like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness had this in itself as well. The title had multiple reasonings for the title, but with this movie, Love and Thunder plays into the love between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth, Thor and later Jane Foster. Thunder obviously is Zeus and Thor in the movie, and obviously Love and Thunder is a case of like Hemsworth and the girl at the end. It has three And also, you know, it plays into the aspect of like, you know, love plays into Korg as well. I'll tell you that. It even plays into his character at the end as well, which I thought was hilarious. Were you going to say something, Fergus?
Yes. I get with the girl at the end. As far as I'm aware, she's not a character from the comic books. She has been created by Disney. Am I
I
wrong?
don't know.
Because up till now, every character that has appeared on screen, or at least in terms of being a hero with powers, has been from the comic books. I think this is the first in them introducing her as fresh outside the comic books character. She might be an amalgam of characters, but as far as I'm aware, she doesn't. I could be way wrong on this, but my reading after the film would suggest this, which then would suggest Disney's taking more licenses with the Marvel properties and future direction, etc. But she's, you know, a very significant character. Like, she's going to be like Thanos level powerful by the time she grows up.
Like she's going to be the new big bad.
That would be
I don't
hilarious.
know. I don't know. Maybe.
That would be absolutely hilarious, to be honest. No, I'm wondering how, like, I'm wondering if it's a case of she will be around for the next movie, or if it was just for this movie in itself. Like, she maybe, like, might be sidestepped to maybe. Also, it could be a case of she might be on the Young Avengers when that finally, because that's in the works at the moment. Because you've got Hawkeye, you've got Spider-Man, you've got Miss Marvel, you've got these few other characters, and I think the Young Avengers are coming, and obviously you have Ant-Man's daughter as well. Which she plays into the new Ant-Man movie, I believe, because they hired a new actress for that role. And I'm wondering if maybe she will be the Young Avengers, so like the Asgardian. Because I know in the comic books that Thor does have a daughter. I want to say he does have a daughter, because I know there's an animated movie where it's the new Avengers. It's like set in the future with like the kids of the Avengers after Ultron has taken over the world. So I'd be interested to see how that plays out, and wondering if that will be it. But yeah, it was interesting to have his actual daughter. I'm wondering if it's a case of maybe his daughter will only be in this film, just to have her as an appearance, and then they'll recast if they do a much bigger role, like a more prominent actress. Maybe that might, because I've heard that all of Chris Hemsworth's kids are in this film, all of them. Like at the beginning of the movie, you see Chris Hemsworth running across the screen, and as he ages up, his son is the young version of Thor as he's running across the screen. So it's really nice to see that happen, and obviously almost all the Hemsworths are in this film, because obviously his older brother Luke Hemsworth is in the movie as Theatre Thor, which I thought that theatre scene was hilarious.
I did see an awful lot of Hemsworths in the credits.
The only one isn't Liam. And it'd be interesting. But no, I think I want to go back to the narrative point of Jane, though. I mentioned this in the review. Obviously, if you in the comic books, this is actually a big plot in the comic books where Jane Foster develops cancer. And she actually is dying, and in the comic books, because I actually did tear up a bit, because and she portrayed it really well, and I loved obviously with Captain America, they had like the really skinny Captain America, like, you know, before he takes the super soldier serum, and in this movie they do the exact same thing, but sort of like differently, because obviously the cancer medical condition, you know, she got progressively weaker as she took on Mjolnir, which I thought was an interesting take, to be honest. I noticed that after rethinking it, because at the start of the movie she doesn't look that ill, but at the end of the movie she looks really, really gone. And in the comic books, it is a case of she doesn't want to use Asgardian magic. She wants to use standard science, but as it goes along, in this movie she does. She's called to Asgard, and then Mjolnir picks her, which I thought was interesting. The fact that Mjolnir picked her because of the love and the connection with Thor, and you know that's the reason why that was happened. You know.
Just wondering, in the comics, I don't know if you know this, has she got more like screen time, for lack of a better word? Is she more utilized than this movie?
Yeah, no, she is. I mean, I believe I can't remember if she does die in the comic books like she does here, which I thought was a beautiful ending for her. I'm sad that, but in the comic book, she actually does have a romance with Falcon Captain America, like Sam Wilson.
I meant to just want to clarify, as Mighty Thor specifically, rather than just Jane Foster.
Oh yeah, no. Like when she is Thor in the comic book, she with Sam Wilson, Captain America, they do have a relationship, and I don't know how long that plays out, because I know eventually they break up that self, but I believe she does have a longer narrative in the comic books compared to the movie itself. But I do think like they introduce in the film, they literally pretty much come to her in the movie, and she's I did like that they had Kat Dennings and Stellan Skarsgård very briefly in the film to just keep them all in all three films, which I think was really good. Because obviously Kat Dennings, I think she's going to be a big character going forward as well. Because she's in WandaVision, so like obviously I think it's really cool to have her there. But that's not really a spoiler, Fergus, because she was announced for the cast. But yeah, obviously Jane's trying to figure out how to get rid of this cancer, and I do like the fact that they didn't just find a magic workaround for that in the film. That's one thing they did, like how, in the real world, we don't have that at the moment. And I think it would have been a cop-out if they just found like this cure in the movie. And I feel it should have happened, but I feel that there should have been a bit more time between Jane Foster and Thor to actually like have the romance back together. Also, Thor realizing that Mjolnir is killing Jane, which I thought was a great, that is in the comic books as well. Like obviously when she takes up Mjolnir, it removes the chemotherapy from her body, and it degrades her body more because it's using the life force. That's why, as the film goes on, she looks more. Her body is dying quicker, and I love. I did see the emotional acting with Hemsworth, seeing he doesn't want her to die. He does want that to happen, and you could see that with him, and I thought that was really brilliant. And also, he does try to bring very comedic moments just to sort of, because he doesn't want to bring, because obviously he's lost so much. You gotta remember, he's lost Asgard, his brother, 3 times, which was hilariously mentioned in the film. He's lost everything, and then the love of his life, coming back for one film, and then that's why I kind of wish it was stretched out a bit more.
Yeah, he has actually a really tragic character when you think about it. It's surprising that he acts the way he does almost. But what I was trying to hint at was just that I actually thought she was really cool as Mighty Thor, and it is a shame that we don't get to see that more. They introduce her as that character, and then she's gone at the end of the movie, and it's just like, oh, would have liked to see more of that, basically.
I thought she was really badass in her intro, she's waving the hammer and the dum dum dum, the musical intro to her as Mighty Thor was brilliant. And as I said, she really played the part really well, and she bring the rainbow and tries to have all these hilarious catchphrases, and we never find out what her final catchphrase is, which I thought was actually a really nice touch in the movie. And obviously, which I did like at the end of the movie, she does an Asgardian fade away like Odin did in Ragnarok, and she does go to Valhalla. Now I kind of wish, I love the fact that we saw because obviously we have Heimdall's son in this movie, Astrid/Axel after Guns N' Roses. I do like the fact that he had a role in this film, or they had a role in this film, and then at the end of the movie we do get to see Heimdall again. And obviously, it does link back to the film, thank you for looking after my child and everything. And obviously, a lot of people feel that Heimdall was underutilized in the previous films as well. And obviously, it's Idris bloody Elba. Everyone loves Elba. The next James Bond, everybody, come on, let's get that done. But it was really nice to see him in the movie. I'm wondering they've done that because Valhalla is a realm. I class it as a realm, and I think they've done this on purpose because they could bring them back. I could see that happening. Now I'm wondering, could it be a cop out if that does happen because her dying and everything? But I'm wondering I don't think there should be a multiverse aspect to this. If you did try and bring her back, you should never do that. In my opinion, it should be the same Jane Foster, in my opinion. But I like the fact that I think I would like to see her back. And Heimdall back. I would like to see the characters, and if you could keep bringing Loki back, for God's sake, you could do that. But I'm wondering how they'd play it. I'd have to read the comic books because I do believe they do play it into the comic books, but I don't know how general audiences would find it.
I'm just going to say I agree with you, and I feel like it would be a cop out because, well, the way they handle her death in this movie was one of the moments that I thought tonally did work really well. So to reverse that, I don't think that would be a good move. I don't know how they should handle the fact that she's in Valhalla. Perhaps there could be something done with that, but I think to preserve the heaviness of that scene, they should keep her gone, basically. And also, as you said, don't use the multiverse as well. That's, again, would feel too much like a cop out.
I will say that because with her in itself, I I love the fact that the final decision, because obviously Chris Hemsworth's, well, I keep saying Chris Hemsworth, Thor, basically, because we have two versions of Thor. I'll go with Thor and Mighty Thor, or Dr. Jane Foster, as she likes to say. I love the fact that he goes, you cannot pick up the hammer again, you will die. And you do see that struggle in him, like, you can't do this, I don't want to lose you. But it is her seeing what is going on, and her making that ultimate sacrifice, which is her, like, her acceptance into her heart. That was the moment where you knew she was going. I knew that was the moment where she was going. She was going to die, because you could tell within that moment itself. And also, yeah, I just thought it was a beautiful. And her entry, I thought, was badass as well when she came down, and like it was more. Even though it's Thor's movie, I would say it's equal between both of them, because I feel she has a lot more in this movie to deal with than Thor himself. He's dealing with ramifications of Gore the God Butcher, but she's dealing with Gore and her issues, and trying to figure out what for herself. I feel it was played out really well, and I do love how Valkyrie in this movie was supporting. She was supporting him about the film. She knew all this time what was going on, but she didn't say a word. So I love that little scene in the bathroom or the hotel room where they have a little moment where they just say, just don't say anything and everything, and I got your back, and that little 90s R&B as well, which I thought was hilarious. And but no, I feel that just going into this film, it's a case of I would have liked a bit more time with that, and I think it would have hit harder as well, which maybe it wasn't needed, but I do think you need specifically.
I did a little reading about the reception to this, and I don't know how true this is because this is just people on the internet, but I heard that some of this film was cut down, which would explain a lot of the problems we have got with it. I think it's a shame.
Yeah, no, I will say, going off of that point, so I think we finished the cancer storyline, which I feel that it is a very heavy topic as well to do for a movie, and to go from Ragnarok to that, I think they did the best they could with what time they had and everything, and I would have liked a bit more time, but it was still an amazing performance by Natalie Portman within the role, and the struggle she was having within the film, and the conclusion for her, and then bringing Heimdall in at the end, which I thought was a great conclusion to that character as well, seeing that he did go off, because he did sacrifice himself to get Hulk to Earth in Endgame, so he actually made, he had a big part in that series. I will say, we're probably wrapping up soon, but the goats. I'm going to say it's the goats. Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ.
You're referring to what? Chris Hemsworth. No, you're referring to Matt Damon and
Luke Hemsworth.
Luke Hemsworth as the greatest of all time, because they were great. Because both those characters bring them back every Thor film.
I mean, I love the fact that after the kids get taken, they're shall we start making a play? That wasn't to know. Let's start doing Act 1. Darkness falls across Asgard. It's oh, that was hilarious.
I loved it. It was a longer scene. I'm sure it was a longer scene than we did in Ragnarok as well. So I actually gave them more screen time.
Yeah,
with that little fake play. I loved it. It was
Melissa
hilarious.
McCarthy is hella.
Oh God, I got a chuckle out of that. That was great.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. But I think when it, and also Korg comes from an all-male society, which has been confirmed. They make babies over volcano pits after holding their hands for a month, and his boyfriend with that amazing rock stash, which I thought was brilliant.
But one good thing about Korg is that when he challenged you, so he didn't lose face.
True, because his heart's in his heart's in his mouth.
I feel like every episode now we have to get some kind of joke in from James, some kind of pun-based joke, or last time we had the Smurf director thing.
Yeah, we've been giggling about that for a while, James. Actually, the Smurf director, it's just that was just perfect. But I think the reason why I gave this a 7.5 was the jokes constantly went during this film, and I think it needed the breathing room, because in Ragnarok you had the Hela sequences, you had the Odin sequences, and those were the break points, and you had the Doctor Strange part as well. You had breaks in the film, whereas this film just kept going. It didn't really stop. Even the sequence with Jane resting in the bed, that was only a couple of minutes, and then they were straight off to the Shadow World to fight Gore, and giving parts to I think even if it was action parts like Gore killing the gods, that would have been interesting, a break point. Seeing Sif's fight, I love Sif the character. I wanted to see her lose I thought the hilarious part, like, you can't get into Valhalla if if you're not in battle. I was like, oh shit, okay. I guess
Maybe your arm is in Valhalla.
yeah, maybe your arm is in Valhalla. I thought that was hilarious.
That was a
But
good
no,
line.
I do just think, like, visually the film was stunning. Also, they literally ripped comic book panels for the movie. Like that sequence of like the massive God killed. That's literally a comic book panel.
I want to say, like, since we speak about visuals, one thing I wanted to point out that we haven't already was the sequence on the small planetoid with the creatures coming out of the shadows, crawling around the surface of the planet, the fight scene, in black and white. That was probably one of the highlights of the movie for me. That was really, really good to see.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Something we also haven't brought up is the relationship drama around the hammer and the axe.
Oh yeah, that was really
This
funny.
became a whole thing. I didn't realize that the hammer and the axe were Mjolnir and Stormbreaker have this kind of relationship
the
with
ex-girlfriend.
their yeah.
Is that scene in the movie as Thor's trying to bring the hammer back and Stormbreaker just appears like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? I'm here. How dare you?
That felt very like Taika Waititi, that kind of humor, just having it kind of edge in from the out of the screen, like, hello, what are you doing? I'm here.
Yeah, how they're able to get comedy from what is essentially inanimate objects is amazing.
I actually, the bit where he pours the beer on the axe.
About to say, yeah.
I expected it to the axe to swerve off the road because it was drunk or something.
Oh yeah, no, I expected the hammer to absorb the beer. Like you actually see it absorb the beer, which I thought would have been hilarious, to be honest. No, I thought that was brilliant. I love like when he tries to go into the Bifrost as well, and he gets knocked back down because he's like, "No, I ain't taking you where you want to go."
I expected the hammer to be angry because most people get angry if you pour beer over them.
Also supposed to drink. It's not got a mouth.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, like, and also it was his first. It was his first drink. I did like when he grabbed Stormbreaker out of the ground at the beginning of the film, and it had grown roots in the ground. I thought, and then he rid it like a witch into battle. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there is a lot of humor in this movie, and probably too much because of the tone.
Yeah.
But because there is so much of it, a lot of it, there is a lot of laughs in it, just because they throw jokes at you like constantly.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I think it's a case of, if they do the next one, I'm wondering how they'll play it. I wonder if it'll still be with Taika Waititi, but with the first two movies, it was more like Shakespearean, and then with Dark World, it wasn't as much. It was much more like the generic Marvel movie to a degree. He didn't speak like Shakespearean. And with these two movies, it's been more comedies. They had a lot more comedy 80s, power metal elements to them. And I'm wondering if they do the next one, what maybe they might change the genre a bit. Because I'm actually thinking with obviously spoilers at the end of this movie, Hercules is being sent after Thor. You could have that comedic element, because I know in the comic books that Hercules isn't a bad guy. Like, and to be fair, it's the Marvel universe and a god. You're not going to have him. They could change it. It would be interesting. I think that'd be great. Like having this god war. I think that'd be brilliant to have. Like, and because obviously it proves that Thor is stronger than Zeus as well, which I think is interesting. But Hercules is stronger than Zeus as well. So seeing them on par would be brilliant to have. And I know we have Namor, the god of the Atlanteans. Well, the Atlantean king in Black Panther coming, and I'm just wondering how this is going to play out. And I'm wondering, because obviously with Captain America, they had different genres in each film. It's a historical film, it was like a spy thriller, and then it came into like, I don't even know what you'd say, Civil War was. And I love Marvel when they do genre movies. And I'm wondering with Thor if they're going to change up going into the next film. And I'd really like to see that, because I think if they could pull the jokes back a bit, you've established the antagonist now for the next movie, because you can't have that, and then just not going to. They're obviously doing a Thor 5. That's going to happen if you're going to have Hercules there. Hercules had to do it again. But yeah.
After the first two Thor films, which I've not seen, but I've heard they're the worst, widely considered some of the worst of Marvel series. After the first two Thor films, who would have thought that the one franchise which would have most films would be Thor?
So Thor 1 is not bad in the slightest. It's faded. It came out in 2011. It was like, it was actually a much smaller movie. Like, most of the movie takes place in a small Midwestern American town. Like, it's not a big film. and and Thor loses his powers, and it's dealing with the ramifications of that during the movie. It has a lot of that. It's literally this town in Asgard. That is it. It's a smaller film, and
Probably watch it.
Niflheim. Yeah, it's really good. Dark World had a lot of issues because the villain was like, you have to watch it. It actually introduced the Infinity Stones more as well in that
Okay.
film. So, and that's how Jane was in it as well. And then she just disappears after that. But Ragnarok definitely brought, people were disappointed with Dark World, and then Ragnarok came out. I was like, what the fuck is this? It's amazing. It's brilliant. And then that film literally led into Infinity War, though. Literally ended with the start of Infinity War, which I thought also helped that movie as well to a point. Because I thought, it really worked for it. And obviously it took place right after Age of Ultron as well. So obviously, the Hulk had disappeared for 2 years. And I think also having another Avenger in that movie helped as well. Like, it had the parallel of those two characters. And obviously we had Hulk for a lot more movies. Maybe that might have helped the characters in this movie a bit more as well, having other characters who'd been established a bit more, having them in the movie as well, which I think would be good. Now, Natalie Portman was in the movies as well, and she's the love interest. She's her own character and to herself, this badass superhero. But maybe it needed a bit more like balance between the characters.
I was going to say, I actually felt like the characters carried this a little bit. Obviously we've talked about there are some flaws, but all the performances were pretty damn solid, like all of them. And I think that means that you don't necessarily need a lot of big hitters in there to fill the gaps. The ones that were there were really enjoyable, and they all gave good performances, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I think they were great. I'm just wondering if maybe that's something they might do for the next one. Maybe that's what they might, because obviously we've got all these established characters. That's what they might do for the next one. Because if you've got Thor, I feel that maybe they should have that going down the line, and that's what made Ragnarok great as well. I do think it needs to pull back on the jokes a bit. I think we all agree on that. Like the jokes, don't get me wrong. Every joke he did was funny. Quite funny in the movie. Like there wasn't a joke where the jokes never went on too long. They never awkwardly went on too long. We were like, okay, this needs to stop now. Every joke had a good, Taika Waititi knows how to end a joke and then roll on the movie. That's perfect into itself. But I do feel they needed a bit more breathing room between each of them so we could soak in the narrative more. And it was very fast paced. Like this has the same issue that Doctor Strange has. Doctor Strange didn't stop, pretty much. He just kept going throughout the entire film. And I felt they needed a bit more breathing room. Doctor Strange had a tiny bit more, like, in the movie, but it didn't have a lot more.
And I've also heard with Doctor Strange, again, that they cut out a bunch of that one. Again, hearsay, internet talk, but it would make sense.
Exactly, and I think those movies literally needed to make another 20, 30 minutes. And, yeah, I'm just wondering how this will play out going down the line. Obviously, we're going to find out in a couple of weeks' time what the actual plan is. No doubt, maybe they're going to announce the next Thor movie. And because I know they did announce the Mighty Thor, Jane Foster's return at the Latin 2019 Comic-Con when they released the first slate of movies up until now. So we knew where the film was going. The next movies that come out, maybe they're going to announce what's going on there. We're going to see what's going on. Because obviously they start filming Blade in October. So I'm really interested to see where that character goes. Because I definitely think we're getting a Midnight Suns TV show or movie with or Moon Knight and Blade and Ghost Rider possibly happening. There's people have talked about Norman Reedus possibly playing, he really wants to play Ghost Rider in the Marvel Universe and he's pushing for that, and I think that'd be great casting. But yeah, so obviously with our reviews, I think that gives our opinions. Obviously Fergus gave this a 9 out of 10, James gave this an 8 out of 10, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10, and Chaz gave it a 7 out of 10. And obviously we rounded that out to 8 out of 10. But I feel that it was a really good film, and I think maybe down the line it might settle a bit more to an 8 for me. I think it might come up a bit more points if I watch it again and, actually have time to sit back. The one thing I did like about this film is I didn't have to take a toilet break. So I could just go in this film, enjoy the entire film. It's just great to have. And it was a really fun roller coaster ride. I'm wondering where the hell it's going to go next. I'd love to see Natalie Portman back again for this role. I thought it was hilarious as well that Taika Waititi asked her to star in his Star Wars movie, not realizing that she'd already been in 3 Star Wars movies, which I think is hilarious. But no, I'd love to see her back. I'd love to try and reintroduce Idris Elba as well as Heimdall, because I think he was a brilliant character and underutilized as well. He's a brilliant actor. But if it's if they're gone now, I kind of like. You can't bring Christian Bale back, unfortunately, how the story ends, which is a bit sad, to be honest, because he's such an amazing actor. But I'm just any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap up?
It's a really good movie, and I think it is very much telegraphing the future direction of the next decade of Marvel, really.
I think that it has a lot of the same elements as Ragnarok did. I think it's just a little bit less balanced in how it uses them overall compared to Ragnarok, really, which, makes it a slightly less but still enjoyable kind of like turn your brain off and go along for it type film.
Yeah, it was good. I said my piece already. I mean, I've got much else to say. What I said earlier.
Yeah, I will say, wrapping up though, don't get me wrong, this film is visually stunning. The jokes work really well. The audio is brilliant. I think the characters give great performances. I just wish we saw a bit more of them, unfortunately. But maybe there might be like some deleted scenes which come out later down the line, because I know they're releasing a new version of the Spider-Man movie called the more fun edition. Like it's going to be extra footage with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield's character, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. That comes out in like 50 days. So we'll probably do a review for that as well. Probably going to re-see that in the cinema. And that's going to be like 3 hours long, I bet. Jeez, because that film's already 2.5 hours. But I'd love to, as Chaz said, maybe they might do like, an extended or at least deleted scenes, which we can add later on and maybe fill in the gaps a bit and maybe see that. But yeah, people, 8 out of 10 from NMI. Hope you all stuck around to enjoy that. It's been great talking about this today. So much for the 15-20 minutes that we're going to do the spoiler talk, but hopefully you really enjoyed the conversation and you got a lovely, good length episode for the podcast. So yes, people, I'd like to thank Chaz, Fergus and James for joining me again today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been really good.
It's good to talk about the film.
Yeah, no doubt we will be doing a myself and Chaz will no doubt be doing a boys review discussion in probably next week or a couple of weeks time. So myself and him will be doing that. So yes, people, if you'd like to get in contact with any questions, queries, or compliments, make sure to email us at nmipodcast@outlook.com. Go to our social pages by searching at NMIcast. That's again nmipodcast@outlook.com. At NMIcast if you just want to search for the socials. Linktree, you can find us all there with all the listing platforms, all our social platforms. You can do that there. Just search at NMIcast. Again, next week we will be doing a Fergus will be taking over control of the podcast for a topic of the VTuber and seeing what goes on there.
Yep. Tune in next week.
Yes, and you can hear me and James, the silence or the unfortunately cannot see our faces with the podcast, but the what the fuck reactions to what is going to happen and all the questions we're probably going to have as we go into that. But again, I've been your host, Nate. I'd like to thank Chaz, Fergus, and James for joining me today. Stay safe, everyone. Keep safe, and we'll see you on Friday for the next episode. Speak to you later, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.